Here on our television, we talk about mostly ADHD, mental well-being, personal development, and whatever I feel like, to be honest. Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel where it is my hope to inspire you to envision more for your life. If you are a returning subscriber, hi, welcome back. And if you are new here, please remember to subscribe and to click the gray bell to be notified the moment I upload another video. Let's get into it. Today we are going to be talking about the 10 myths of ADHD. Obviously there are more. These are the ones that I found, the ones that I found interesting, and the ones that were rang really true for me. The ones that I fell for back in the day before I got diagnosed at the ripe young age of 31. So I didn't know I had ADHD till then. And a lot of these I thought were true. Starting with myth number 1 is that only children have ADHD, which is something I thought was completely true until I realized, oh my gosh, I have it. So it is a misunderstanding. It's estimated that about 1 in 10 kids are diagnosed with ADHD, and it is estimated that about 4% of the adult population has ADHD. So if you're an adult and you think you might have ADHD based on the symptoms that you could be exhibiting, if you haven't seen my videos on ADHD, I have some videos that I will link on the inattentive and the hyperactive types of ADHD. If you think you have ADHD and you're an adult, I recommend getting a diagnosis or definitely at least looking more into ADHD, because even if you can't get a diagnosis, but it resonates deeply with you, looking into it can be something that can really just like unlock a lot of like answers for you in your life, because I know that it did for me. Myth number 2 is that you age out of your ADHD. This is simply not the truth. You might grow up and some of the symptoms might not be as severe, and I feel like this is definitely true for people that are hyperactive. Maybe they're not as running around as much, or they're not quite as talkative. The symptoms just might not be exhibited as strongly, because kids are just always going to be full of energy regardless. So the symptoms might show up more extreme, and you might have figured out ways of managing it. So you've got little tools in your tool belt. So you've gotten better as you've gotten older, but it's not something that goes away. So myth number 3 is that medication is your only option to help manage your ADHD. And this is simply not true. It might be a necessary tool for managing your ADHD, but it's not the only option, and it's not the only thing to focus on. I, for example, don't use medication. I choose to opt out of that. I know we talked about it in my last video, but there are so many different things that you can do to help with your ADHD. For example, lifestyle changes, diet changes. You can go to counseling, or you can get a life coach. You could also make sure that you're getting outside, spending time in nature, getting away from screen time. You could focus on exercising and, getting those endorphins rushing in your body. And those are some of the many things that you can do to help manage your ADHD. Medication is definitely not the only way. Myth number 4 is that people with ADHD are lazy, that they have zero willpower, and that they are unintelligent. And obviously, it's a myth because it's not true. I actually always thought that about myself in high school. And once I applied myself and started focusing, I went from having really bad grades, mostly F's, C's, and D's, to having all A's and B's. ADHD is a neurobehavioral disorder that has nothing to do with how intelligent you are. A lot of it mostly has to do with your executive function capabilities and your ability to time manage, focus on the right things that you need to get done, and things like that. And there's definitely certain techniques that you could do and tricks of the trade that you can utilize in life to be better at managing certain things and not being as lazy or as distracted, to help you focus on the right things and not be distracted, working on an art project when you really have other things that you should be doing. That was a really bad example. Whatever. I was painting when I should have been working on editing, and I played the ukulele when I really want to clean, things like that. But one technique I've mentioned in the past is the Pomodoro Technique. It has really revolutionized my life. It is a tool in my ADHD toolbox that I utilize all the time. And basically, a simple example would be to just basically set a timer for 25 minutes or so and focus on whatever task you have to work on for those 25 minutes solid. Start and finish the 25 minutes, all full focus on that. And it makes the dread of doing something doesn't seem so impending, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be everlasting. And you end up really, really focusing and honing in and not getting distracted because you're not allowed to do anything else. And it's actually helped me stay on task. Oh my gosh, I realize that there's a time ticking, helps me focus. It helps me stay on task and I don't get distracted. Because a lot of times when I set out to do something and I don't quite have a time crunch or something that is keeping me focused on it, I will find myself on my phone or distracted with TV or whatever before I know it. And I'm like, wow, like a couple hours has passed by and I've gotten nothing done. But the Pomodoro Technique, I highly recommend it. Let me know what you think about that. If you've used it before, or if it sounds like something you would like, let me know in the comments below. Myth number 5 is that ADHD isn't real. And this one really gets under my skin because ADHD, finding out that I had it, was the most validating experience in my life. I mean, imagine somebody saying that depression isn't real or that autism isn't real. When you have ADHD and you exhibit the symptoms of it and you live your life as somebody with this, it's a very real disorder. Regardless of other people's opinions of if it's not a real disorder or not, I exhibit the real symptoms of ADHD. So I don't care what anybody has to say. ADHD is really real. I really sometimes have challenges with certain aspects of my life and time management and focusing. ADHD is an actual diagnosis, and mental health professionals agree that it is a real mental disorder and it is diagnosable. ADHD, what it does is it causes a chemical imbalance in the brain, and this alters your brain function. So your brain just functions differently and it makes life a little unique. Myth number 6, this is one I definitely fell for, is that people with ADHD, all of them are super hyper. It's probably why I didn't even ever consider having ADHD, and the fact that I thought it was only something that kids have. And I thought you maybe grew out of it. I don't know. But not everybody with ADHD is really hyper. In fact, a lot of us aren't. And I know I've talked about it before, but I have the inattentive type ADHD, and a lot of people have the inattentive type, and a lot of women especially have it. So a lot of times people aren't even diagnosed when they have ADHD because they don't even think they have it. But the hyperactive type is only one component of ADHD. There's actually 3 types of ADHD. There's the hyperactive, the inattentive, and the combination type, which is a unique combination of both types, which is the most common type, if you didn't know, which is kind of the one I wish I had. I wish I could like turn off my hyperactive and then like daydream if I want to. I'm kidding. I know it doesn't work like that. Myth number 7 is that a dysfunctional childhood caused your ADHD. I've actually been told this, and it is like kind of hurtful and offensive. I tried to let it go because I've read this also. I just disagree with it because I just don't feel like my ADHD was caused by this, because there are people that have had unhealthy childhoods or dysfunctional childhoods and it didn't cause their ADHD. It's possible that bad parenting or dysfunctional childhood played a role in how your ADHD symptoms presented themselves. Maybe, you know, you never really had structure. So the part of you that has a really hard time organizing your life already, which is difficult, is worse because maybe your childhood was a little bit more dysfunctional than others per se. However, most experts agree that it is a combination of both environment and genetics that causes your ADHD. I mean, obviously, good parenting and a stable home and a really structured home probably would really help a child, not even probably, just would help a child grow up to manage their ADHD symptoms better. They'll kind of have like a jump start on just being a little bit more able to self-manage. But having a dysfunctional childhood is not why you have ADHD. One thing I think is interesting is the genetic component, because for me, before my mom passed away, she was able to share with me, which I thought it was like a little godsend. She was able to share with me that after watching my videos, she really thinks that she has ADHD. And looking back on it, and even my siblings and I agree, we really think that our mom had ADHD as well. And obviously, if you're a parent with undiagnosed ADHD and you are raising children and you don't realize that you might have passed that on, obviously the environment is going to be unstructured. So it's like just like a petri dish of ADHD. I have ADHD. If I had kids, I'd be a little bit more aware of it. I would maybe see the ADHD in my children, be able to guide them a little bit better, but it's definitely not what causes it. Myth number 8 is that too much screen time causes ADHD. This one just is so silly. I remember growing up and hearing that. I've heard this myth before, that, you know, all the video games and the TV shows that we're watching is causing ADHD. I think it's our hyper focus, and that it's the thing that's keeping our attention. The video games and the TV, the binge watching shows is keeping our attention fixed for longer. I don't think it's the thing that's causing our ADHD. I think it's the thing that's entrapping our hyper focus. I don't recommend, though, binge watching Netflix shows and sitting and playing video games for hours. I don't think that's a great use of your time. Definitely don't think it's what's causing your ADHD. Myth number 9, just kind of segues from the last topic, is that if you can focus on something, then you can't have ADHD, which is just simply not true. I feel like ADHD is the worst titled diagnosis out there because attention deficit disorder is so inaccurate because we don't have a problem with paying attention to things that we're hyper-focused on. Obviously, hyper-focus, if you're not aware, is one of the things that is a trademark of having ADHD, is that you can get super hyper-fixated on the wrong thing. Doesn't mean that you can't focus. It just means that you are focusing on probably not what you should be focusing on. Again, binge watching Netflix or playing video games or getting stuck playing the ukulele like me. We don't have a hard time focusing. We have a hard time focusing on the right thing. So just because you can focus doesn't mean you don't have ADHD. Maybe if you're focusing on the wrong thing, that might be a telltale sign that you do in fact have it. And last but not least, myth number 10 is that ADHD is overdiagnosed. I've heard this before, and from my personal experience, I disagree because I feel like I don't really actually know many people that have ADHD. At least maybe they're just not talking about it. In fact, a lot of times people are misdiagnosed or not diagnosed at all because they exhibit some of the subtype symptoms or the comorbidities with ADHD. They might be anxious or they might have symptoms of depression. So they're diagnosed with that. But in fact, the overall umbrella term that they should have been diagnosed as, or the main disorder that they should have been diagnosed with, was ADHD. And the subset symptoms that they're experiencing are anxiety from, undiagnosed ADHD, or depression from failure after failure after failure. And I'm obviously speaking of myself here because I've had really bad anxiety in my life and I thought I was depressed at times in my life. So a lot of times people are undiagnosed, and especially women are not oftentimes diagnosed because they don't even realize they have ADHD. They just go through their life thinking that they're lazy, stupid, distracted, and they have just like a litany of just lifelong failures, and they just don't know what's wrong with them, but they don't even come close to thinking that it's ADHD because of these dang myths. So they don't get diagnosed and they can't get the help that they need. So I'm here to advocate for past me in hopes to help people. And if I've said it once, I'm going to say it again. If you think you have ADHD, I definitely recommend attempting to get diagnosed. It really was a big answer for me. If you can't get diagnosed and it just resonates with you, I say do the best you can to understand it, learn about it, because there's a good chance that you have it. And in my channel, I talk a lot about the things that I do to help manage my ADHD, and I don't use medication. Hopefully by being that person that puts themselves out there and shares my experiences of unmedicated ADHD, you can be inspired to do some of the same things that I do and realize that there's a lot you can do in your life, and you're capable and you're amazing. And just because you don't know if you have ADHD or not doesn't mean you can't do things to help yourself be a better person and to grow and to understand yourself a little bit better, so you can look back and see the progress that you made from where you are. Because I definitely can say the same for myself. When I first found out about my ADHD, I don't even recognize myself. But seriously, I've definitely come a long way, and I'm grateful for the knowledge that I have. I feel like it's really helped me. So those are the 10 myths that I mustered up and thought I'd share with you. If there are any other things and myths that you didn't really know that were ADHD related, and then you found out and you were like, whoa, Mythbuster, let me know what those are in the comment section below. If you liked this video, please let me know by giving it one big thumbs up. Share with anybody that you think might benefit from it. And also, please remember to subscribe to my channel and click that gray bell to be notified the moment I upload another video every Wednesday, fingers crossed. And y'all must know by now that you are always in my prayers, and I really pray that God blesses you and that you have a really good week, and that you forgive yourself and have grace on yourself for your little mishaps along the way with ADHD and just being a human, because the human experience is a unique experience. And I'm just getting way too deep here on this ending. So I will talk to you later and see you next time. Bye-bye.